edginess about them that those guys had. Do they?
I think so. I mean, you can still be nice guys, off the field, but I think on the field,
No,
as
no.
far as
None of those
being
I
a
mentioned were
terror
nice guys anywhere.
to their opposition, I mean, like to me,
I think they're
Mike
game
is
changers.
literally a game wrecker. Like
Oh,
he wrecks
I'm with you
every
there.
plan that you have, like on the field. The same way with Aaron Donald.
I'll throw it out there, 901-360-8255 at our text line. Who do you think would be the closest thing to in that image of Butkus, Lambert, Taylor, Lewis, on and off the field, you just would not mess with? And Dick Butkus was that, and 80 years old, and he's gone, and the Bears did a good job of honoring him last night, but it was on the road. When they get back home to Soldier Field, they'll do a lot more. The Bears, they needed that one last night to change the story, and Justin Fields was dynamite. That's what's in him. And he was really more dynamite last night from the pockets. He's got the wheels. He's got the improvisational part of the game. But that last night was quarterback play from the pocket. And with that loss, part owner, and I mean, now, look, he's part of the ownership group, but in real cash commitment, it's very little. It's a largely ceremonial role for Magic Johnson. He's there, in my opinion, to accomplish a couple things: get the funding for the new stadium, preferably inside the District of Columbia, which has just unlimited hoops to jump through for him to be able to pull that off. And I think he's the one. Magic Johnson, as the front man, could broker the deal with the Native American groups if there's any potential of returning the former name back to the team. He, in published articles, Magic Johnson said he is going to try to do that. He's the guy to do it. He's the guy to send to Capitol Hill. He's the guy to send around town and really whip support for a new stadium inside the district, maybe at the property of old RFK, and to really, in his role, and largely a ceremonial role, be the front man for goodwill, and Washington needs that around town. And then last night, after they lose, he went on blast on Twitter. That was a direct shot at Ron Rivera, questioning how the team played last night. And Magic Johnson, we've laughed and kind of joked about it through the years on Sports Time, that his Twitter is mostly water is wet, the sky is blue, the sun is out today, today's Friday. I mean, he's almost never controversial in any Twitter takes. It's almost like he's running for Secretary General of the United Nations with his Twitter account. And he goes on blast for the team and their performance. He's right. He has every right to say that. It was just unlike him. I thought a little surprising that he would do that. I mean, you hardly ever see him critical of the Lakers on effort or results or anything like that. And for him is, again, mostly I think in a ceremonial role to blast the team. But it was a good win last night for Chicago and badly needed. Every week in the NFL is just a struggle to get to a win. We're going to visit with Glenn Rogers Jr., as Dave does every Friday, on the NBA with an NBA agent for Priority Sports. And at the end of this hour of Wolo and Friends, we will have Bryant Dacus join me. We don't get to talk enough, so Bryant's going to join me, and we're going to try to do Dave's pick segment. And I don't even know how they do it, but we're going to try to do it on this Football Friday, October 6, 2023, with games in the area tomorrow in Oxford. That's really the only game in the area tomorrow. Ole Miss hosting the Razorbacks. The Tigers are off. Tennessee's off. Mississippi State in the area. They play Western Michigan tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. So about as slow a Saturday as we've had, but it'll be busy in Oxford, and it'll be busy in Starkville with the Razorbacks in Oxford against Ole Miss and State hosting Western Michigan. Glenn Rogers joins us now to talk high school football. Former Tiger, great CFL, great, and all-around great guy. When am I going to see you in Oxford, Glenn Rogers?
Hey, buddy, hey, good morning to stats and all our listeners. Look, I'm ready to go to Oxford, man. I love going down to Oxford. The atmosphere is always beautiful, and Coach Kiffin got those guys playing well and the defense playing well. So it's just as soon as I get a good break, I'm going to head down there and check out the ball game.
Come on down and join us. And I know Ed's probably got room for you in his box where I usually see you. And it's always a lot of fun with that crew in there.
You know, my daughter went to school down there. Her first semester,
I know.
Man, we enjoyed coming down. My wife and I had a ball coming down there.
Well, we love having you. Glenn, tonight you do have an open date. MUS is off tonight. Christian Brothers off. They play next week, and I hate that it's falling on that Friday night of the Tigers' big game next week because there are a lot of fans that will be at MUS and Christian Brothers that would have been at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium next Friday, I think, for the biggest Tiger game in a long, long time.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I hated stats that's the same night we play the Brothers as, you know, our game. Our rivalry, Christian Brothers, is the 14th oldest rivalry in the country. But it's like you said, man, it's a lot of people going to be at our game, but I would love to be at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium because that's, like you said, that's going to be one of the biggest games for our team in a long time. And it's going to be a game. It's a must-win game for us because we got to show the world that we can be on the big stage and beat a team like Tulane when all eyes are on us.
And Tulane's a top-flight team that's so very well coached by Willie Fritz. When Ole Miss played them a few weeks ago, Glenn, I tell you, fundamentally, they only had 2 penalties, and they both were late in the game, almost at desperation time, had just zero impact on the game, and how that team tackled. I mean, it was a coaching clinic on tackling. And, Glenn, you know, coaching, you know, right now, tackling can get a little awkward now.
Absolutely, because you know you can't do the things you used to do to work on tackling. So you know, at practice and you know during the week, you can't be as physical because of certain rules and regulations they have now, even in college and in the pros. And so, I saw that Ole Miss Tulane game, and I tell you, Stats, they gave Ole Miss everything that they could handle. And boy, I tell you, Ole Miss offense did an amazing job of putting some drives together later on, and then with that big sack and scoop and score fumble. So hats off to Coach Kiffin and his defense for getting that game turned around down there in New Orleans.
Glenn, I have not done it, but I think I've made every LSU fan mad and friend of mine mad at me this week, and I have not done it intentionally. I'm just doing it as raw analysis. Tulane played Ole Miss more physically than LSU did. Not closer, but the Ole Miss offensive line could not move that Tulane front and could move LSU at will. But tonight in high school football, a lot of great games. And I want to start with the story at Southwind, 7-0 on top of Division I, 5A, Region 8. How have they done it? And is this a team that's made up of a team, or do they have any players that can play at a next level, or are they just bought in for this 2023 football season for their team?
I think it's all of the above, Stats. You know, Coach Griffin has those guys believing. Southwind program has been down for a while, but I'll tell you, Dave, he's got a dual-threat quarterback that's off the charts, and he'll be a starter on somebody's college. I think he's a senior this year, but next year he'll be playing somewhere. But Coach Griffin has those guys believing. Anytime you got a special player like that, the guys around and feed off that. We went through that with Barry Brunetti. And so he's got that type of energy with his team now. And I tell you, Dave, Southwind is poised to make a deep, deep run in the playoffs. And like you said, they're 7-0, they're undefeated. And Coach Griffin, and that defense is playing well, as we all know as well.
I heard you make that comparison last Friday with Dave about the Southwind quarterback to Barry Brunetti and what Barry did for you guys. It's almost symbolic of around college football, and it's the same thing in high school football. You not only do you have to have a really good, reliable quarterback, he's got to be Magic Man. You can't go out there and win with a guy that just gets you in the right play and kind of playing tailback tight end football. You got to have a guy that can make some music.
Absolutely. You know, the quarterback is the most important position on the football field. And, you know, you can have a game manager if you got a great defense. You know, we saw that with the Baltimore Ravens when they had Ray Lewis and they had Reed and those guys, when they had Trent Dilfer just managing it. But they still had players on offense. They had Jamal Lewis and Shannon Sharp. And so, but, you know, that's the only time you can have a manager when you got a great defense. Other than that, you better have a guy behind the center that can make plays and make things happen when everything else breaks down.
Kansas City does not win those 2 Super Bowls with Trent Green or with Alex Smith. They win them because of Patrick Mahomes. Tonight, Bartlett 5-2 at 7-0 Germantown. That should be a good one.
I tell you, Stats, and you've been hearing me brag about Gene Robinson ever since he's become a head coach over at Fairleigh. I think he's one of the best young coaches in this area in the country. He's got his team poised to make a run for that state championship in the 6A region. And I tell you, he's got playmakers. He's got an offense that can move the ball and put points up. We saw what they did at Whitehaven last week, beating Whitehaven 35-12. And so it'll be a tall task for Bartlett. I think the game will be close early, but Gene's going to lean on that defense and his explosive offensive players, and they'll come down through the stretch and win that game.
Then that'll be a fun setting at Germantown tonight with 7-0 Red Devils host 5-2 Bartlett. I'm surprised in these next 2 teams. I'm surprised that Houston that they have 2 losses, but I'm really surprised that Arlington only 2 up and 5 down. That Arlington Tiger program, great facilities, and good fans, great fans. And I'm surprised that they're only 2-5, but I'm also a little surprised at Houston at 5-2.
Houston's played one of the toughest schedules this year in the area. They haven't shied away from it. Tupelo, South Panola. They haven't shied away from anybody. Whitehaven, Germantown, and so the Germantown
who's making the
loss
schedule
was a real
out
close
there?
one. Yeah, they've been scheduling tough opponents, and it's like you said, Stats. Arlington, great facilities, great location, a great fan base. They've been switching coaches. They just hadn't had the continuity of coaches at the head job, and so that can take a toll on you and on a program when you're switching coaches out every 2 or 3 years, and so they've had that probably 4 coaches in the last 6 or 7 years, and that's not a good recipe for a successful program. And so I got Houston to pull that game off tonight with a big victory and keep that train moving down the tracks.
Yeah, at Landers Field at Houston High, a great place to go to a game.
Great place
there as well. Now, great place. And our friend Bryant Dacus here at our radio station, he went to high school there, and I told him the best concession stand cheeseburger, only thing that comes close to it is down at Whitehaven. The Houston High School concession stand, really good. I got to tell you, Glenn, I went out to a game at Arlington in 2020 when we were still right in the middle of COVID, and had to wear masks and had to set apart at the game, and it was opening night. It was like Friday night, August the 15th or 16th, and just hadn't been to any sports all of 2020. I would have gone out to midfield and kissed the logo. I was so glad to be out at sports, and those fans were so great that night out there at Arlington at Tiger Stadium, and really fun to be there. Who is the best player in town this year? Who's the best player in Shelby County, Glenn?
Well, I tell you, Stats, it's really, you got so many good players. Aiden Glover, the quarterback over at Collierville. You got our kid Brandon Nicholson, the corner, who's committed to Stanford. The quarterback at Southwind. You got so many guys, so it's just hard to pinpoint just one particular guy. Gene has a defensive end, and then he's got Morrow, the kid that's been recruited by all the SEC schools, and North Carolina. He's got another kid committed to North Carolina and one kid committed to UCF. So it's just really hard to pinpoint. This is the guy this year that's the best player in the city. I think we got a collaboration. There's so many good ball players in the city this year.
The young man at MUS, Brandon Nicholson, that's going to Stanford, I mean this extremely glowingly. What in the world is his SAT score?
He's got a 34 ACT score, Stats. He's got a 4.5 GPA. And anybody knows anything about MUS,
to go to Stanford.
The academics is very, very rigorous. We got a very tough academic program, and I tell you, Stats, he plays 3 sports. He's a starting corner, he's a starting guard on the basketball team, and he's also a track runner. So he's really got his priorities set. He's really focused on what he wants to do. He wants to be an engineer once his playing days over with. To me, he reminds me a lot of a young Richard Sherman. Not blazing speed, but intelligent. He's going to be long. He's going to grow some more, and so the sky's the limit for Brandon Nicholson, I think.
I can't wait to watch him out there in just a great place, and they don't cut a single corner. Ask Brevin Knight, ask anybody that's ever been through the Stanford system. I mean, you've got to be able to do it in that classroom first.
Absolutely.
They don't cut any corner. I know the MUS community and his family got to be really proud of him. Tonight at Melrose, they're 4-3. They're trying to get back to the glory days. They play Ridgeway 0-7, but at Melrose they can go to the playoffs this year, can't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, Derek Bobo's another young coach, Whitehaven product, University of Memphis product, by way of Jackson State. But Derek, he's played a tough schedule, lost a couple of close ball games. But I tell you, he's got athleticism. The community is behind that team. It should be an exciting night over there. And I tell you, Coach Sutton at Ridgeway has really been going through some tough seasons post-COVID. Lost a lot of players. Those 2 years out of football really did a number on Ridgeway's program. And so I think Derek Bobo and them will get the win tonight because, like I said, Deron Sutton, the longtime coach at Ridgeway, has really been struggling post-COVID with just keeping athletes in the building.
And it was really hard on a lot of people. Some are still coming out of it in Ridgeway. A good example of that. Lausanne tonight, they're 5-1. They're at St. Benedict 1-6. I don't know if they have an Eric Gray, but they always have a solid team.
So they do. And, Coach Kevin Castro does an amazing job of always having his guys ready to go. And Chris Jordan, his D coordinator, has been there a long time with him. And he'll have that defense clicking. I feel really bad for Will Hudson. St. Benedict moved down. They were in our division. They moved down to the lower division. I tell you, they've been taking on the chin for a couple of years now. Stats. It's just hard to get that program going with a bunch of good athletes. And Lausanne is prime and poised to really make a run in that division right below us in the playoffs in that division.
And we all love Will Hudgens. You're talking about a multi-sport guy. I mean, if they kept score, he could play the sport, and he was really good at it. And he played at Ridgeway, and
absolutely,
and we remember him well.
And a former Tiger,
and a great Tiger, and a tough guy, and a really good man, and a good young coach. Glenn Rogers Jr. talking high school football with us. He's assistant coach at MUS, and he's been a staple of these airways for a long, long time. Glenn, I'm not going to get you in trouble because I think it's equal, but I think the best rivalries, like you have MUS and Christian Brothers, from whatever side you look at it, the best rivalries are the ones where both sides look at it kind of with the equal contempt, the equal disdain, a little bit like OU in Texas tomorrow. The rivalries that really aren't that kind of rivalry is when it means more to one than the other one. It means the same to both sides next Friday night, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We have a lot of respect for Christian Brothers and Coach McDaniel and his staff, and I know that the same. They have the same for us. And Bobby Austin has been around a long time, and and for him to be in that rival a long time, he's a product of Jake Rudolph, and I'm a product of Bobby. And so both programs have a lot of respect for each other. Two great academic institutions, and two institutions that mean a lot to this city, Dave, in this area.
Glenn, it's been fun to visit with you. Dave will be back with you next Friday. In fact, he'll be back next Wednesday. And I've had fun hosting this week, and I want to see you soon. And next Friday night, I know you'll be busy with your coaching duties at MUS, but you'll be thinking about the Tigers against Tulane. It is that big for the Tigers, and playing Tulane, the champions of the Cotton Bowl, just shows how big it is next week. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you, Stats. I appreciate it. Go Tigers, go, and go Owls. Thank you, Stats.
You got it. Glenn Rogers Jr. talking high school football with Dave, with us on Wolo and Friends each and every Friday, a staple of this show for years, and it will be a fun night out at high school football. I hate it that next Friday night for that classic game that it goes up against the Tigers go up against MUS and Christian Brothers next Friday night. But as we talked about yesterday with Laird Veach, it just happens sometimes, and now with the way of the world and the way of TV, there's almost no way around it. It is not ideal, but it couldn't be helped. The baseball playoffs get started back tomorrow, and feels like it's been a long break for baseball playoffs, doesn't it? But they get started back after the 4 sweeps across baseball. And tomorrow it starts at 12:03 with the Orioles hosting the Rangers. And won't that be a scene in Baltimore for them to really be expected to win that series and possibly go on to the World Series? But they got to take care of Bruce Bochy and the Rangers in the best 3 out of 5 for this next round of playoffs. 3:45 tomorrow afternoon, Minnesota in Houston. The Astros, the world champions, they've named Verlander the starter. He goes out against the Twinks tomorrow at 5:07. Phillies and Braves. Phillies upset the Braves last year in the playoffs. They get the Braves tomorrow at 5:07 in Atlanta with a lot of Braves in our area, a lot of Braves fans in our area, and it will be packed and rocking at Truist Park. That great setting for baseball there. Last year in Atlanta, I got to go to a Phillies-Braves regular season game, and then they met in the playoffs. And late tomorrow night, Diamondbacks at Dodgers. Dodgers heavily favored in this series. They send Kershaw out in Game 1 and heavily favored in that series and favored to get all the way to facing the Braves in the National League Championship Series. I mentioned in the SEC the games tomorrow, but in the top 25 tomorrow, the fun one's going to be bright and early with game day there, 11 o'clock kickoff on the grounds of the Texas State Fairgrounds, Oklahoma and Texas. I'm so glad they've kept that game there. I know Jerry's World wanted it, but they've kept it there, and that'll be fun. That's the first game of the day. Also at 11 will be Maryland at Ohio State. Can Taulia Tagovailoa pull the upset over Ohio State? Ohio State, a huge favorite, 20-point favorite at the Horseshoe in Columbus. At 11 o'clock, number 23 LSU will be at number 21 Mizzou. Tigers versus Tigers in probably the biggest game at Mizzou since that first year or two they were in the SEC when they won the East and went to the SEC championship game. But to host LSU tomorrow, Mizzou fans are looking forward to that. Washington State, number 13, playing UCLA at the Rose Bowl Stadium. That's at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. At 2:30 tomorrow afternoon on ABC, Florida State hosting Virginia Tech. 4-0 Seminoles, coached by Mike Norvell, and we know what they have. I think they would be ranked, in my ranking, they would be number 1 right now with what they've done. The big opening night win over LSU and the win at Clemson. 2:30 on CBS, Coach Nick Saban against the former protege, Jimbo Fisher, against Texas A&M. Bama, slim 1-point favorite, both teams 4-1. Texas A&M going for back-to-back wins over Alabama in College Station. Syracuse at North Carolina tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 on ESPN. Syracuse playing North Carolina. Syracuse 4-1, North Carolina 4-0. Undefeated versus undefeated in 20th-ranked Kentucky at Georgia on ESPN. Georgia 14.5-point favorite in that one. Michigan second-ranked. They play at Minnesota on NBC tomorrow night at 6:30. Michigan heavily favored. I mentioned Arkansas and Ole Miss. Notre Dame at Louisville tomorrow night, 10 versus 25. 17th-ranked Miami hosting Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech inexplicably losing last week to Bowling Green. Fresno State at Wyoming. Oregon State at California, and Arizona at USC. Zach, let's catch up with Andy Schiffman. We'll talk NBA with him. Go ahead and call him now. We'll talk NBA with Andy Schiffman coming up right now. If you can catch up with him, Zach, please.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
They're taking care of business in Memphis right on the river with Grind City Brewing and all of their great products. Look, this was a dream come true for a father and son duo. And if you have not been to that brewery right on the river, just to the north of downtown, you're really missing something special. And now you can't miss their products. Wherever you go, you see a brand new label. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's distinctive. You'll know Grind City Brewing, and of course you know their products like Poppy's Pills, that great Pilsner, or Tiger Tail, that very creative craft malt liquor. There's the new Thaddeus Amber Lager. That is absolutely a great light beer. There's the India Pale called Godhopper. It's outstanding. And then there's the Belga, the Belgian-style wheat ale. They keep bringing hits at Grind City Brewing.
Cooling or heating system on the fritz? Dripping faucet? Call the pros at Conway Services today and we'll waive the service call fee with any HVAC or plumbing repair. Expert technicians available 7 days a week. Call 384-3511 to schedule your appointment. Visit conwayservices.com for details, terms, and conditions. License number 64210, 64365 EAS, MS 19688.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
I feel good shopping at DriveMax. DriveMax, you get value.
Need a car that screams I feel good? DriveMax has it all. From cars to SUVs, find a tightly inspected used car that'll have you dancing all the way home. Call 901-664-2424 or visit DriveMaxApproval.com.
DriveMax, I got approved.
Memphis' oldest restaurant, Coletta's, was established in 1923 to give Memphians the best Italian food possible. And I'd say they got it right. They are the creators of the barbecue pizza. It was Elvis's favorite, and I know for a fact that a large will feed one person all weekend. If you need to feed several, though, Coletta's caters any event. Choose from homemade lasagna, ravioli, Alfredo, primavera, and so many other delicious items you can't help but enjoy. Impress employees or clients and treat them to Coletta's for lunch or dinner. Plan ahead and get your holiday party booked at Coletta's. Elvis's favorite place to go eat with his buddies at the South Parkway location, and Coletta's even has an Elvis room dedicated to him. Call Coletta's on South Parkway at 948-7652 or Appling Road at 383-1122. Coletta's. It was Elvis's favorite, and it should be yours too.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know. Binswanger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Binswanger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Binswanger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit binswingerglass.com. Binswanger Glass.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Andy Schiffman joins us from Priority Sports Talk NBA, and it's getting that time of year, and it's great to catch up with Andy, an agent based in Chicago, but native Memphian. Glad to have you with us, Andy, and glad to be talking NBA. I know you're ready.
Oh, absolutely, Brett. Good to hear from you. Appreciate you having me on, as always, and definitely very exciting. Just a lot of excitement with all the transactions that have gone on recently, and I'm excited. Watched the game yesterday over in Abu Dhabi with Dallas and Minnesota, and got 2 more preseason games tomorrow, so it's a fun time as the NBA is starting to kick off here.
Tell us as much as you can about Brandon Clark.
Well, hopefully, fairly soon, he will be out of a boot. I think the hope and the plan is for him to hopefully be ready come January or so. I think that's probably best case scenario because, again, it's not as simple as, okay, with the Achilles injury that he had, he's gone through the rehab, the PT, now you're out of the boot, then you can just start being thrown into practices and games, and a week or 2 later you can go out there and play. As you are well aware, the recovery time for players with this sort of injury can be a little bit extensive because there's not only the physical aspect of getting back into NBA game shape, and the majority of Brandon's game is predicated off his athleticism. So for a guy like BC, you want to make sure that he's 100% when he goes out there and plays in a meaningful game. But you also have to factor in the mental recovery portion as well. And just, look, this is going to be the first time, whenever that time comes in the next few months, that Brandon's going to step foot on an NBA basketball court and play in an NBA game since his injury in the spring. So you have to be cognizant of that. And there's definitely a lot of resources that the Grizzlies and our agency has provided to Brandon to just be prepared for that and overcome any obstacles. But we're definitely optimistic for his recovery and should be back just as good, if not better than ever, hopefully by January.
And it used to be the career ender. It is not that anymore, but it is still devastating. Yep. And what is all the medical people you've talked to, what is the toughest side of it, physically or mentally, emotionally?
It is really, I already said it, but I think with the resources that the Grizzlies provide for Brandon and just the technology and medicine and the advancements in those areas as it stands today, he's in great hands physically, medically. Everything went smooth. So from here on out, hopefully everything will continue to go smoothly. At this point in time, Brett, I really do think it's the mental side of things. But BC is such a tough guy, both physically and mentally. He's got a great support system around him with his teammates and his family and the coaches in front office. So I do think just in general, the mental aspect of it is definitely difficult, but I'm not really so concerned with that with Brandon. It's just because of the reasons I already said, right? He's got a lot of resources surrounding him, and he knows just to take it one game at a time. And look, the other thing is when it is time for Brandon to hit the court, it's not going to hopefully be, hey, we need you to go out there and play 30-plus minutes a night because we need you as a linchpin to make a playoff push here. Hopefully the Grizzlies, it'll be some point in time prior to midseason, prior to All-Star break trade deadline, and they can slowly wean him out there on the court, build up his minutes. For sure, when he comes back, he'll be playing limited minutes, I would expect. That's how Taylor would like to do it, bring him along slowly. And that also will help his mental recovery just to kind of slowly get back out there into the swing of things and show him that, you know what, hey, I can do this. I played 8 minutes today. I went to a full practice the other day. Tomorrow I'm going to play maybe 12 minutes and just build up from there. So that'll help for sure.
Andy, I think the East naturally goes through Boston and Milwaukee. Who does the West, other than Denver, the defending champs, who does the West go through?
Well, you got to put Phoenix for sure. And I talked to a lot of people, both in my agency and some of our players as well, about this a lot recently after the Damian Lillard trade. And I'm going to come back to the East in a second with you, Brett. But I think it's either one of Phoenix or Denver. Obviously, as a Memphian, I'd love to say the Grizzlies will be right there. I do think the Grizzlies will surprise a lot of people. I think they'll win some games when Ja's out. And obviously, when he comes back, I think they'll really excel. I think hopefully there won't be any issues with the new squad kind of gelling together, and obviously the addition of Marcus Smart. But, again, it is going to be very difficult, health pending, to top Denver or to top Phoenix. I think you can't go wrong if you're pegging Phoenix or Denver to come out of the West and potentially win an NBA championship. But going back to the East, you cannot forget about Cleveland. They signed 3 of Priority Sports clients. My guy, George Niang, is one of them, Max Strus. They went from a middle of the pack, maybe bottom half of the league shooting team, and now I expect them to be one of the top 5 or 6 perimeter shooting teams in the NBA with the offseason additions they made. So I think Cleveland is going to be a force to be reckoned with, along with Boston, along with Milwaukee. And obviously Miami went very far, went to the finals last year, but they didn't do it as a 1, 2, or 3, or 4 seed. Remember, they were a low seed. I don't really know if they got significantly better. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I don't know if I pegged them as a top 4 team in the East. You talk about these other Eastern Conference teams. Atlanta doesn't really get me excited right now. Philadelphia is going to be good. But again,
Cleveland does.
Cleveland does, but like Philly, did they really get better? I mean, they lost George Niang, and I'm not saying, George was one of the best shooters in the league coming off the bench, and it's hard to replace that. And obviously, there's a topic of conversation in Philadelphia with Harden and what's going to happen there, and I think that's going to be the storyline to be followed throughout the first few months of the NBA. So that's a big question mark for me, the success or non-success of Philadelphia. I think you're right when you say Boston and Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be fun to watch, man. I don't know how you stop that duo of Giannis and Dame. It's going to be interesting. And obviously Boston got so much better adding Drew Holiday, and you got to have Porzingis be healthy and these other pieces around them stay healthy, and Tatum and Brown. It hurts a little bit to lose Robert Williams, but Drew Holiday is the best perimeter defender in the league. And Marcus Smart is a very, very good perimeter defender. Obviously, the Grizzlies will benefit from that. But Boston adding Drew Holiday is a huge addition for them as well.
Yeah, and I love J.B. Bickerstaff, loved him here and want him to do so well. Quinn Snyder, you mentioned Atlanta. Quinn Snyder in that first full year, though, I think they will be better, but I don't think make any noise.
Yeah, I always look and evaluate. It's all relative, right? So you look at the draft, you look at free agent signings, you look at the trade market. Did your team improve your roster? Did you improve your roster relative to your conference, relative to your division? I don't really see that in Atlanta, quite honestly. I think you're always going to kind of live and die as Trey goes there, obviously. I think I wasn't really high on them last year. I think they're a playoff team. I don't know if they've done enough to kind of push them over that hump. And that begs the question, fast forward to the end of this 23-24 season, what does happen with Trae Young? Because you kind of had him as the leading horse for so long, and you're really...
He's gotten two coaches fired, Andy.
Right. So, where does it go from here if you're Atlanta? I mean, you saw this happen with the Grizzlies years ago when you drafted Pau Gasol, you invested in Pau Gasol, and everyone kind of just assumed that he was going to be a lifetime Grizzly, and then all of a sudden you get that trade. When they were struggling, you trade him to the Lakers, and you rebuild, so to speak, but you get Marc Gasol out of it, you get some great pieces out of it. And I wouldn't be shocked if you see that happen with Atlanta. I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the season, Trae starts to voice his displeasure and say, you know what, I think it's time to move on. But we will see. And then some of these other teams that I'm keeping an eye on this season, Brett, I would love to see Detroit make a push for the play-in game. I've got Isaiah Livers there.
I have
Harris
him there.
Yeah, Marcus Sasser, as Memphis fans know, he's one of our guys too. But look, I was high on them last year until Cade Cunningham went down. He's got to stay healthy. He's fun to play with. They're fun to watch with Jalen Duren, Cade, Jaden Ivey. They've got some nice pieces there, but guys got to stay healthy. And if they're healthy, they could be a play-in or maybe even vie for a 7th or 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And I think you're going to see the same thing in the West with OKC. I think they're only getting better. They're a young, fun team to watch. They've really improved. They've got a great coach. I could see them being a top 6 or 7 team out of the West as well.
Andy, we know the building process it's evolutionary. Before you can become revolutionary like Denver and maybe become dynastic like the Spurs were and like Golden State became, you got to take those baby steps. And I think for the Pistons, if they landed in play-in at 8, 9, 10, that's a win for them.
It absolutely is. But like I said, I think you have to have Cade stay healthy. I think he is the focal point. I think I used this term earlier, I think he's the linchpin, and he's the one, I don't want to use the word wild card, but I think a lot is determined on his health, because when he's out there and when he's healthy and he's playing and he's giving you 75-plus games, he's great, and he makes everyone around him better. I know my guys love playing alongside him. It's not to take anything away from the other guards they have there. Jaden Ivey is a great young player going into his second year. They acquired Monte Morris from the Wizards over the summer, and he's one of the best backup point guards there is in the NBA. But I think it all starts with Cade with that team. He sucks the defense in, and all eyes are on him when he's got the ball in the middle third of the court and creates a lot of opportunity for the shooters that he's got around him. But if you have no Cade, I think it's going to be really tough for the Pistons to go far this season.
Andy Schiffman, I know you're ready for the long haul to begin, and it starts very soon, less than 3 weeks before opening night. And I hope I see you around town and at FedEx Forum. And thank you for your time today. I know Dave and our listeners appreciate it. Thank you, Andy.
Always a pleasure. Take care, Brett.
Thank you very much. Andy Schiffman, native Memphian, doing so very well. And I didn't want to say it while he was on there because I don't want to dare embarrass or him think I'm trying to falsely flatter him. He's going to run a team someday. One of these days he runs a team, and I hope I get to see it. When we come back, we're going to take this break, and we're going to come back and wrap up the last portion of Wolo and Friends. My friend, I don't get to talk to him enough, Bryant Dacus, he joins me. We'll talk about some picks we're going to have in the weekend ahead. He normally joins Dave and talks about the Tigers, but they're open date. We'll get in some Tiger talk. That's next on Wolo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
We interrupt this broadcast for special news and information concerning family leisure.
The world's biggest spa sale is back and bigger than ever at Family Leisure. How is that possible? Well, let me tell you. You start off with 50 different spa models to choose from 5 different manufacturers. Then you throw in up to 30% off in-stock spas and swim spas. But is that all? Oh, no. You get free upgrades on all in-stock spas, plus 24 months, same as cash. Wow! This is the kind of sale that you just can't have every day. But it's happening right now at Family Leisure, the world's biggest spa sale. Soak in the savings right now at Family Leisure, Witten Road and I-40. You know the place where family and fun come together.
Please remain calm and walk. Don't run to Family Leisure. And now back to your regular programming.
When you think about insurance and you want great value without sacrificing great service, I want you to think one place: the Eflin Insurance and the entire Eflin Insurance team. Matt and his group of professionals will access 10 leading companies to find the right home and auto program that fits your budget and your absolute needs. The Eflin Insurance team, the number 386-GER, 386-4777.
Uncorn flavor, Corky's barbecue.
Hi, Jimmy Stovall here with Corky's Barbecue. A great way to beat the heat this summer is to stop into Corky's for happy hour and let us pour you an ice-cold draft beer. Corky's has the best happy hour deals around with our selection of local craft beers on draft for only $2. And check out our appetizer specials, including dollar wings and half order of barbecue nachos. Stop into any Memphis area location Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And if you're in East Memphis, check out our newly renovated location and enjoy our new patio.
Cooling or heating system on the fritz? Dripping faucet? Call the pros at Conway Services today and we'll waive the service call fee with any HVAC or plumbing repair. Expert technicians available 7 days a week. Call 384-3511 to schedule your appointment. Visit conwayservices.com for details, terms, and conditions. License number 64210, 64365 EAS, MS 19688.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun. So you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Join us for the Memphis Police Department Hiring Expo, Saturday, October 21st, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 170 North Main Street downtown. We'll be taking applications and interviewing candidates on site. Salary starting at $54,611, increasing to $60,713 after probation. Benefits include a $15,000 sign-on bonus, up to $10,000 relocation assistance. For more information or details, visit joinmpd.com.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
I think Bryant Dacus is about to join me, and we're going to pick some games as they do. They call it Pick Six on Friday. I think Dave is leading, and I'm going to try to bury him in these picks. You're going to pick 3 games that we'll pick, and I'll pick 3. And we'll try to see who comes out ahead on their Friday pick segment. I'm going to start with my games, and I'm going to start with Maryland, Ohio State, because I think Talia Tagovailoa keeps it real close there tomorrow. Ohio State, 20-point favorite at the Horseshoe. They win. Talia Tagovailoa takes the cash, though.
I'm going to go the other way. Good morning, Brett. I'm going to go with Ohio State minus this big number. I've seen Maryland play only once this year against Charlotte, and I was not impressed at all with how they played. I thought they were sloppy on defense. The offense, obviously, Tagovailoa brings a lot to the table. I'm not sure about their weapons outside of that. I'm really high on this Ohio State team. Massive number, but I'm going to take the Buckeyes.
That would be an upset if Maryland went in there and won, but I don't think they win. I do like Tully and I do like Mike Loxley at Maryland. You pick a game, any game, odder the better.
Well, don't tell me that, or we'll be picking UMass versus New Mexico State. My first game that I bring to the table is gonna be LSU versus Missouri. Right now, LSU is a 5-point favorite. We'll do 5.5 because we don't like the hook. But a lot of Memphis fans familiar with this Missouri team. We saw them a couple weeks ago in St. Louis. LSU, you're very familiar with LSU. You saw them last week in Oxford. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to ride the high spirits of Missouri. LSU probably coming wanting some revenge after losing last week, their second loss of the season. But I'm going to ride high with Missouri, and I'm going to take the Tigers, the Missouri Tigers, in this one plus 5.5.
I'm with you. That doesn't make for very compelling radio, but I'm with you. I'm going to take Missouri as well. I think they win straight up. I think there's a lot of things going on with LSU. First of all, they're not very good, obviously, on defense. The back-to-back weeks, they allowed 31 to Arkansas, and then last week the 55 to Ole Miss. They were not very good in the fourth quarter against Florida State. And this for LSU, the checkout factor. What are they playing for?
That's a good question. I mean, that second loss was massive for them, and yesterday I couldn't even remember. We were talking yesterday during John Harden's show about this LSU team, and I completely forgot about the Florida State game because it feels like it happened so long ago, and it feels like this team should not have two losses as we're getting into Week 6. So I think you're right. I mean, it's going to be a lot of checkout, I think, for LSU. So I think Missouri's definitely a good play here.
Outside of LSU purple and gold, Parsons, you know who is pulling almost as hard? There's a couple constituencies pulling really hard for LSU in this one. Florida State. They need to keep LSU propped up. Mm-hmm. They need that to continue to look like something that we thought was really big. The SEC, CBS, a lot of these matchups that LSU would have rest of the year that would be prime for CBS, like against Alabama in a few weeks, for LSU when they play Florida in Baton Rouge November 11th, and then the Thanksgiving weekend matchup against Texas A&M. There are people that need LSU to stay propped up. And that second loss, and I'll say it about almost every team out there, and the checkout factor after that second loss. And then my next game I'm going to throw at you, and we're going to pick later today, A&M slim 1.5-point underdog at home. We know this. Somebody's leaving there with their second loss, and what would be, almost heresy to mention checkout factor in Alabama, but it could happen. We were on alert for it last year, and it never happened. It could happen this year. I'm going to take Alabama minus the 1.5.
Brett, you know this probably as much as anybody because I bring it up constantly in the afternoons. I am in love with this Texas A&M defense. One thing that I love to do on any Saturday is just sit at home, pull up the Texas A&M game, and watch that defense fly around. They're young, they're hungry, and they get after opposing teams' quarterbacks. I think that's what happens this weekend at home in College Station. Give me Texas A&M.
So you just went against Nick Saban, and you said you would never go against him. And
Brett, I don't do that very often.
2 times this year. 2 times this year.
You're keeping
this
up
year's
with
not
it.
very old.
Yeah, you're right about that. But, oh, man, that Texas A&M defense, I can't bet against it.
You know, this segment, not the first time we've ever done radio together.
No, it is not. It's certainly not even the first 20 times we've done radio together.
At a perfect time for promotion at 3 o'clock today,
right.
You can hear us for 3 hours together.
That's right.
On Sports Time with Bryant and Brett. Your next game.
My next game, I'm going to go over to the ACC, a home game for Louisville against Notre Dame. Obviously not an ACC conference game. It would be in basketball, though. Right now, Notre Dame, a 6.5-point favorite, a battle of top 25 teams on ABC Saturday. I'm going to take Notre Dame in this one minus the 6.5. I love what Sam Hartman has done this season, so I'll take the Irish.
Perfect for me. When I do the regular hit on Jocks at 12:25 on Thursdays, and at the end of that segment, and they do it on Friday, and it's a great radio segment, they do a pick segment called I Ain't Scared, and they throw it open to callers and texters and everybody to weigh in, and you have to pick an underdog. And I'm 3-2 this year in picks, and 2 of those 3 have been straight-up wins for my underdog pick. Yesterday, my I Ain't Scared on Jocks, Louisville, straight up at home over Notre Dame. I'll take that 6.5 though for Dave, but I'm saying Louisville gets the upset. Now I had 2 weeks ago, I had Notre Dame losing to who 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't even close. Wake Forest, maybe?
Maybe Wake Forest. Let me look at their schedule.
Yeah, I think it was Wake Forest 2 weeks ago that I thought would get Notre Dame or play Notre Dame close in that spot. No, it wasn't Notre Dame. It wasn't Wake Forest. I'm sorry. I can't remember who it was. But it was a big underdog.
Was it Central Michigan? I know a lot of people were on Central Michigan in that early non-conference game.
No, it was NC State. That's who it was. NC State was favored at Carter Finley, and that's who I took. All right, do they do any picks or any pro picks during this segment, or we just go all college?
You know what, Brett? We're in a roll here. Let's just go all college.
Let's do your next pick.
My next one's going to be the big showdown at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Oklahoma versus Texas, Red River. Right now, Texas a 5.5-point favorite. That's moved since yesterday. Make sure I see that right. 5.5 points for Texas. I don't care. I'm going to go Boomer Sooner on this one. The big upset win for Oklahoma, and it puts them back on the map.
People may not believe this, and others may say, yeah, we can tell. We don't rehearse this.
We do not.
we truly had no idea about really what we were doing in this segment or how we were going to do it. And it was flying as blind as you can imagine. And then we throw in the zany Fant, and it was even more blind. I'm going to take Texas in this, and I think it's blowout city. I've got FSU as my number 1 team. If I had to pick the college football 4, Texas would be number 2. Is it time for me to pick a game?
It's your final pick.
Boston College and the Army.
Oh, wow.
Army's 2.5-point favorite over BC. Gold helmets galore, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be a beautiful sight. That's another 11 a.m. game tomorrow. Oh, man, who are you taking in this one?
Give me the Army.
Whew. You know what? I can't bet against our military, so I'm also going to have to go with the Army. TYFYS for Army, and they get the big win at home against Boston College.
So I'll take Maryland, Mizzou, Bama, Louisville, Texas. Army, you have Ohio State, Mizzou, A&M, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and the Army.
That's correct.
Of course we keep up with it, don't we?
Yeah, we do, always.
Brian, I'll talk to you this afternoon.
Talk to you this afternoon. Thank you, Brett.
Appreciate you very much. We will be back together this afternoon at 3 o'clock, but we want everybody to keep it right here on Sports 56 because coming up next, you got John Harden's Happy Hour. I want to thank Andy Schiffman, Coach Glenn Rogers, and Bryant Dacus for jumping in with me, but also the great job that Zach Boyd's done all week producing this hour. I'll be back on Monday and Tuesday as Dave stays on vacation until Wednesday. We'll talk to you this afternoon. But for now, thank you very much for listening to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.